Good early morning. Another good day in Coney and Misty, and hope that everybody enjoyed my video on the launching of Ybit. So another BTC oriented, Bitcoin oriented fund. So let's jump in here on Coney. And take a look at what transpired. So we moved up, threatening our weeklies. Okay, it's super positive. The stock price is moving up, everything, but we're right at the strike price and slightly above on the majority of our strikes. So that makes me nervous. I wouldn't mind. We can go up a few more points on Wednesday, but ideally we end up right in this area. So we still pick up that 7 million, right? That helps the payday. So we were up 4.68% on coin, right? And we just about matched that, 3/4 of that, which is about what you can expect when you're getting up and you're capping your weeklies, right? You're not able to sustain the rate because you've gotten up and above your weeklies. Okay, so 24.86. So awesome overall for coin, right? Let's looking out here. Not a lot of movement in the cash because no new shares were added. We added shares in Misty, and I'll share that, but we didn't add any shares in Coney. So let's go take a look at our synthetic, our 260. So no trades there, but notice that we're doing very nice in that we're lowering. The one thing that happened here, in Misty we took this huge hit, so we took a really low strike price when we rolled, and we're making a bunch of money in the synthetic on paper. Well, here we're losing a bunch of money on paper, right? Because we went from a 250 to a 260 a week before, the expiration, and we continue on that path. But now that we're recovering, we're getting in range. So there's no real danger with 517 being out there, right? But nonetheless, you have that. Up here we were making money when we were writing the puts for a lot more, but we haven't added any new positions, right? So we technically on paper we have a $40 million loss, and we have an 8.7 million gain because we've been selling those puts for a lot more than the calls. Okay, so let's look at our weekly, right? Our active weekly calls. So this spells it out for us, right? We're threatening being completely capped. We are on 17,690 of 17,990, right? So basically we have 300 at 255. I'm going to show you this on our April tab, because if we don't pick up that 7 million that I'd like to see us gain, and we run by this, yeah, we'll be doing better on the synthetic, but that doesn't put any money in our pocket to be paid for this month, right? We want all that to happen from 5.3 to 5.17 in the next collection. So I didn't update the chart, but we just went up here a little bit higher at 236, right? We're still above the 243-ish that we need to break out. Volume wasn't particularly heavy. So, but still an overall great day, right? You see the 236 implied volatility is still within its range. Let's take a look at the April tab. So here's what that impact is, right? We said that we break even. In other words, we don't make any of this 3.8 when we get to 238, right? We're getting some of it, but we're past the 235 strike price, right? So if it expired like this, we would get 2/3. If we expired at 236 instead of 235, we got $3.85, so we would get 1/3 of this cash, right? But we're already counting the full 100% of the cash, right? So we're counting the 785, and I'll show you when we go in and look at this. So that's what the danger is. I don't know if they'll sell any tomorrow with 2 days left. They could, if money flows in, right? If more people buy CONY because they see it moving up, then they may throw some more cash this way. So I'll summarize that position for everybody here. So not much else on that part. Let's go look at our holdings, and you can see what that looks like. You know, what I've been doing here is I'll track 3 days in a row, and then, you know, I don't have so many columns. I don't want to create another tab and do it. But I'm just showing the positive flow of our synthetic. So we had this huge $80 million loss that went to a 59 million loss, and now we're at a 40 million. Again, this is on paper, right? We don't actually take that loss until we roll, right? Or we let it expire. Usually roll out a week when you're ahead of the game. But like you did on CONY, we went just 2 days before, and, you know, sort of a forced roll. So we actually closed at 24.86. The NAV price, which you get from net assets divided by total shares, tells us that we're 4 cents premium, right? But I'm sure you guys are happy to see 24.86 instead of, I think the low this last week was 22 that we traded at. So again, these are just the values, right? You start seeing these things climb back up, and we want to win all our weeklies. All right, so let's go take a look at our payments tab. So we're setting at 21,785, right? And we're borderline. If we close above 235, that'll eat in. And then the other one, so 3.8 can only go to 235. Look at this one. A 3.3 can only go to 232.50. So it runs out completely at 236.90, where we're at 230. So on paper, we've lost this guy, right? We've lost 90% of this 3.3 million. If the books, if everything was done, we got 3 trading days. So, you know, we make it up on the synthetic, but you lose it in the payment here, right? We got plenty of time to make it up on synthetic. That's why I try and describe it that way to you guys, so you can see, right? We're at 236.43. We've only got a tiny bit before we lose everything. 236.90, we lose that whole, you know, 3.3 million. So you can see that we're just up against it here. All right, let's go to the payment. As it stands right now, okay, I would see them paying us, if we can keep all of that money, this 21 million, and we have 19 on the books, there's nothing that's going to change there, right? Unless shares come in and we write some more shares, then I'm not even sure we'll make money on that. Let me look at that synthetic again and see what new writes would be. Yeah, it's possible that we would write more because we are up above it, right? So the call's not going to be, but bottom line, we've got to slow down on the gain here to capture these weeklies. So in the payment, I would say right now we've got $3.60. I would say they are going to pay all of this and maybe a little bit. So my best guess right now is $1.50 to $1.60. They could take it up to $2. So I would say a range might be $1.29 to $2 that they would decide, right? But my guess is it's going to end in the $1.50, $1.60. Now that can, and if we lose these weeklies, they may keep it at the $1.50, right? Because you're still going to have $2.40 over here, right? So even if we lose some of this, I think you're still going to get $1.50 to $1.60. So that's where I feel most comfortable with the payout. And obviously the end of the week is going to tell us a little bit more. All right, let's move on to Misty. So on Misty, we're in a situation where there were some trades. Okay, because they had 200,000 additional shares, we went from 2.75 to 2.9 million shares. So we gained 200,000 shares, which was like 7-something%. So this is the tab. So they did a buy, call, sell, put, sell short, put. So 45 of those. And we spent money, right? We didn't gain money on that. And then we went out and sold some calls, which we gained money on. They always try to do the same volume. When you see these three, it's a synthetic. And then we wrote a 1435 expiring on 1420. So let's take a look at how that looks. So going across here, we increased our shares. And the call that we wrote really only put 94,000 in our pocket. Well, on Misty, we're not that close to threatening our weekly. So this 2.9, this 2.1 million, okay, in orange, and say we added it, so now we have about 2.2 million that we can collect it. And this guy's pretty far out, 7.2% with 3 trading days. All right, so let's look at the weekly. So I've added that. Here's Mr., right? 1338. We can run to 1395, which is for all practical purposes, that's 96% or so of everything, right? So we don't want to run by 1395. We can go right up to 1395 and not have a problem. Let's look and see what we got. Yeah, we got 3174, right? So we could go into it a little bit. We could land at 1400 and still collect 2 million of the 2,000,001, right? It wouldn't hurt us that much. So we've got room to run on this guy. We've got room, right? That's why your break even takes the strike price and it calculates how much you received and said you can run to that number before you actually lose something, right? Because at this number, you just lose all the money that you were paid, but you didn't really lose anything. It's not a loss, but it's a loss of the gain the minute you get to the low number. Okay. So on our active, on our weekly, that's what things look like. Same kind of thing here. We moved up a little bit on the chart. I didn't update the chart. I'm trying to do it about every other day. Unless there's something really radical, like if volume blows through or we significantly break a lower trend line or an upper trend line, then I'll update to show you that, right? But we're in the same situation there. And the big mover, honestly, is going to happen 429, right, on Mr. They announce, that's Friday, right? Or sorry, that's Monday. So that's not going to impact the weeklies this week, which is pretty good, right? So, but what they normally do is roll their weekly. So based on where we are on Friday, if you see them rolling out 20% from the next week, you'll know that they're concerned about a surprise, earnings situation in Mr. So that'll tell you what the fund managers think about the possible volatility, right? So if I was them, I certainly would roll out like 20% from where we're just about to close on that Friday. All right, let's go out and look at I don't think that, I should do holdings for you guys. Okay, So we closed at 33.23, right? Yeah. And fair value, right? The NAV, the amount of shares divided by the net assets, say 33.21. So we got a 2-cent premium, right? Look at this, 7.27% of the shares. So Misty, you know, if people listen, I doubt that they listen to my 3-day rule, but you know, very savvy traders say when something falls way down, give it a few days to see. Now this could be a bear flag rise and then another big sell-off. I'm not predicting that. I tend to be more bullish and more optimistic on this. But anything can happen in the short term, right? So here's our newly added 45 shares. Other than that, we move cash around a little bit. But if you look at our April tab, where that shows up is in the share count, right? So our cash went up by 5.8 million, right? We went from 62.1 to 68.8. Because it didn't cost us a whole lot of money on the stuff that we put on. So again, when people come in and buy a fund, right, that drives money in. So what else on these? We're getting more positive on our, before I go to payments, you'll see that. So look at this. As we move up, we were at, you know, less 45. So now we move from 664 to 709. And as we gain, right, to 238-ish, 236-ish, you know, the delta here is increasing. So on the books, when we go out and look at that synthetic, we've got a $13.7 million gain, right? But it actually took down our April profits because we had to pay a lot more for the call than we did for the put. That's not the case in CONY because we're behind the 8 ball, right? We're ahead of the game here, right? Oh, I don't think this one ought to go to the 30. That'll give us the 1338. So we lose a little bit up here, not a whole lot, but still $1 million on that. But we're gaining a lot. So when we look at this holdings, I didn't do the chart over here. But if you look at this, we had a $1.8 million profit right on Friday. We had an $11 million profit at the close on Monday on our synthetics. And we had a $13.7 million profit. All right, so let's take that and take a look at the payments. So I wrote that in here. And the reason I really did it here, because it's different than CONY, because we've got this, right? We've got this $32 million loss. So I wanted you guys to see that we now have a $13.7 million gain on the books. It's not going to get booked until we roll, okay? But I think the fund managers will take a little bit of that into consideration. So we're now at 6.7 here, okay? So we still got this big $8.60 loss, and we're sitting here on the short call income, which could fund $2.30. So typically, I kind of researched this. If you go back to CONY, I don't want to necessarily go pull it, but I could. CONY had a situation in January where it's very similar. It had a $20 or $30 million loss over here, and it had a decent gain. I think it had around 230 or something, and they paid out, actually it was in the ones. They had like a 180 or 190 gain, and they had maybe a $4 loss here in the synthetic. And so they chose to pay 2/3 of the short call income. They paid $1.07 for that January month. So I went in and did the math and said, right now, I feel like, given this situation, even though they've got a 13.7 million gain, it's not booked yet. It's on the books, but it's not booked. because they haven't taken it, that they would pay the same percentage, about 0.67 to maybe 0.70. So if I had to predict a payment and everything stays the same, right, which it should this week because we've got room to run on the weeklies without getting capped or without losing. And there's nothing that we're going to gain. Now next week, remember they declare, I think on May 3rd, I need to go look at the schedule, but that's what it's been running. And that's the following Friday. So if we have good weekly gains here and it kicks this number up, then I could see them paying more. Okay, so that's the only caveat. If we do well next week on our weeklies, and on Thursday, the day before Declaration Day, Coinbase has their, Mr. has it on 4/29. So we're going to know right away on those weeklies what happens on Monday after the market. So hopefully these guys go out 20% and it moves up after the earnings and we capture a bunch of that and it takes our payment up to $2 or $2.30. But if you're looking for a $3 or $4 payment, I don't see it at all. Okay guys, hope that helped. Hope you want to watch Ybit. I'm going to put all three of those together and do them all at the same time. I just wanted to get that one out quickly. Okay, so again, this is not financial advice. This is for education purposes. I'm not a financial advisor. Hey, have a great one, guys. Enjoy. See you soon. Bye for now.